We saw that the rescue operations have been going on all day. How much success have we had?
I think we've been reasonably successful. We trialled a number of methods this morning before settling on the preferred approach, the one we think is going to give us the best chance of success. We've scaled up those efforts through the day, so we now have over 40 personnel from DPIPWE working on the site, and we also have about 25 volunteers assisting us, along with support from the fish farms.
So how many whales are you saying that you've rescued?
We've rescued about 25 at the present time and escorted them out the channel and out to sea, and crews are continuing to work, so that number will increase before we get to the end of the day.
And can you give us some idea of whereabouts you've rescued them from? Is it all just from that first sandbar, or...?
Yes, it's all from the sandbar known as Fraser Flats, just inside the harbour, pretty much opposite the Macquarie Heads boat ramp. And so they're being escorted from that point out the channel with the use of a boat and a sling, where they're released out towards Pilot Bay, which is outside the heads in the Southern Ocean. So
can I take you back and just get you to go through those 3 stranding sites? How many whales are at each site, and how many of those whales have died?
Well, if we start outside the heads on Ocean Beach, I think around about 23 whales have died at that site. 2 were found alive, and so those 2 whales have been triaged and moved to a point where we hope to release them. A 3rd whale did come in, and so that's also being triaged, and we'll look to move that to a location where we can attempt to get it back out to sea. Inside the harbour, the main site is at Fraser Flats. Originally there were 2 pods, one 100 metres or so off the boat ramp that had 200 individuals, and another one several hundred metres further out that had around about 40 individuals. Overnight, with a higher tide, that group has consolidated. Consolidated in some ways, so the 2 groups have become one, but on the other hand, the whales have spread out a bit more. But the whales that we've been rescuing are those that have been closest to the deeper water of the channel, and that's where most of the effort has been focused.
And in terms of how many whales have died from each of those 2 separate strandings that have now become one?
We're still just giving a general estimate of, we think, about a third of the whales have perished, but we'll be looking to do a more detailed assessment tomorrow using infrared camera imagery from the air.
At this stage, have you got a plan for what you're doing with those carcasses?
No, we're just considering options at the present time. I guess there's a couple of key options. One is that we dispose of them at sea. That's very dependent on currents for success. We're also considering whether burial might be an option, but that's not without complexities either.
Now, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I understand that once stranded whales are then rescued and brought out to sea, there is a risk of them coming back and stranding themselves again. Is that something that has happened, or is it a risk yet?
So if we're talking about live animals, yes. So there's always a risk when we refloat animals and take them out to sea. There is a risk that they will return and restrand. We have seen that in past occasions. It depends on a whole range of factors around animal condition and local environmental factors. So yeah, it's something we do see. We're hopeful that that's not going to be the case, but it wouldn't be unexpected if some animals did restrand. We've had 1 restrand out of that group that are released today, and that will be attempted to be released again today. But yeah, the hope is we get them offshore, we give them the best possible chance of survival.
And that one that restranded is the one that ended up on Ocean Beach, is that right?
That's correct.
So what's the plan from this point on? And obviously, we've been doing this sort of work, so is it just more of the same, or you said that you brought in more resources?
It is more of the same. We probably have enough right at this point in time. The crews have been becoming more proficient and efficient throughout the day, so the effort has speeded up. So we'll continue to do the same tomorrow, and so hopefully we'll achieve similar success and the number of whales rescued will increase. Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Oh, sorry. You mentioned before that you trialled this morning a few different ways to get the whales out back into the ocean. Which method did you guys settle on?
We settled on a method where we get a sling or a strop placed underneath the whale, and that's attached to a boat, one of the vessels from the fish farms. We also have crew in the water. They help to manoeuvre the whale off the sandbar and into the deeper water where it achieves a greater level of buoyancy. And then the boat actually escorts the whale out to the deeper water. So the sling is attached to the boat on the side, so it's a guiding process, it's not a towing process.
Just standing there watching it today, it's really cold enough. It's really wet, it's really cold. We've got rescuers who, some of them are they're half in and half out of the water, some of them are waist deep in the water. It must be one bloody freezing, but two really tiring. How do you deal with that?
Kris might be able to answer this better, but we rotate crews through. So they stay in the water for a period of time, and when they start to get fatigued, then they come out, and we try and rotate them through at regular intervals so that they don't get overtired and place themselves at risk.
But you've been involved with whale rescues before, Kris?
Yes.
So from a personal perspective, can you sort of paint a picture, I guess, how exhausting it is being a rescuer, manhandling something that's so big and so heavy, and that sort of, trying to keep them alive and keep them out when it's so cold on and taxing on yourself?
Yeah, so I guess it's a Tassie. We're dealing with much colder waters than much of Australia, so it's something that we're used to dealing with. Like Nic said, fatigue management is critical, so we are rotating crews through those roles, those in-water roles, and making sure they get plenty of time out of the water to regroup and re-warm. It's a really essential part of our stranding management down here. It is fatiguing. It's also physically fatiguing, but it's also mentally fatiguing. So we're dealing with large stressed animals, for several days at a time, and it does take an emotional toll sometimes. So we manage both the physical aspects and the emotional aspects, and it's usually just rotating crews through and making sure that everyone gets a good rest.
Tell me about that emotional toll. I've gone out there and seen that big bulk of whales, like when we got here yesterday, there's 200 of them. We're clearly in distress. I'm not out there trying to rescue them and losing them as we're trying to, rescue them. It must be awful. Yeah,
it can be. Sometimes or mostly you're caught up in the moment and you're so focused on your role. I guess it's afterwards that you generally reflect on it. It is quite confronting, and I guess that's one of the reasons why we do put in such a big effort. There is a real connection with the public, and there's an expectation from everyone that we are going to intervene and try and save as many as we can, and that's due to that emotional response often that we do get from these big events.
You this time in a more planning side of things for this rescue, but seeing all those whales out there, knowing this morning that a third of them had died, and obviously it's a long day for both for the whales and the rescuers. How desperate are you feeling at this point about those whales?
Oh look, it's something we grapple with a little bit. There's an element of reality too. So this, as far as we know, this was a natural event. So we can accept that we're going to lose some animals. This is such a tricky event, such a complex event, that any whale we save, we're considering a real win. So we're focusing on having as many survivors as we can. So focusing on the live animals, that's what we're focused on now. And like I said, anything we get off and back to sea is a real win.
Have you become aware that any more whales have died during the day? I know that you said that you're going to do a proper infrared tally overnight, first thing tomorrow morning, but do we know just from people being out there whether we've lost more whales during the day?
Look, I'd say it's inevitable that we've lost more. We haven't got a tally at this stage. We have been focused on rescue of live animals, and that's been the strong focus of the responders out there today. But we'll do a more formal tally tomorrow morning and hopefully have an updated estimate there.
And any idea of what caused this?
Look, at this stage, no, and that's not unusual. So there's many different factors that can cause a stranding like this. often it's simple misadventure. So one or two or a few animals get themselves into trouble, and the rest of the group might follow them in. There's a whole host of other, infinite examples of why these guys might strand, but we're probably never going to know the ultimate cause for this one.
What do you consider the greatest challenge moving forward in this rescue operation?
Look, there's a number of challenges obviously associated with this. I think there's the animal welfare aspect and focusing on getting those animals back to sea, and that continues to be a challenge. We've found an option that appears to be working, and we'll keep pushing that one through. There's the challenge of maintaining resources and staff involved as well, and then post dealing with live animals, we've then got carcass management to think about. So there's a number of challenges involved. That's part of the normal conversation around these events, but we're making progress with this one.
With only a finite number of resources within the operation, when do you say it's nature's way?
I think we'll continue with any animals that are alive. So if we believe that there's a chance of saving those whales, we'll continue that rescue effort. But I think, as Kris has alluded, inevitably, the longer the event goes on, the higher the likelihood that the animals will perish if they can't be released. So there is a finite period within which we'll be dealing with live animals, and that's likely to be towards the end of the week. And so I would expect that we'll, shift through a transition from, rescue into, the retrieval and disposal effort.
You mentioned that you had ramped things up today during the day. What does that involve? Bringing more people from across the state, or?
Yes, we've brought in more resources from across the state to increase the presence on the water, so our capacity on the water. But as I said, we've also got better at it as we've gone through the day, and we're shifting more animals more quickly. So we're pretty satisfied with the progress we've been making.
And so from here on, obviously it's going to start to get dark soon. How do you, I guess a lot of those whales, we've seen volunteers almost physically propping them up so that their blowholes don't get covered during the day. What happens overnight? What do you do?
Well, overnight we leave the site. It's dangerous work in daylight hours. It's even more hazardous when it's not daylight. So it just places personnel at too much risk to try and do anything at night. So once we approach dark, we'll wind things up for the day, and we'll be back first thing tomorrow morning.
And that analysis of using the infrared that you were talking about, when will that be done?
We'll probably look to do that as early as we can tomorrow. We've got the infrared camera coming down tonight. We already have the helicopter on standby here, so as early as we can, when the conditions allow, we'll get that up and get the IR scan done.
Can I ask what may seem like a really silly question, but it would work in human terms. If you're a whale and you're lying next to a family member who has given up and clearly given up and is starting to die, what effect does that have on the rest of them that are stranded?
Look, as we've discussed, they're a highly social species, so the behaviour, vocalisations, etc. of animals nearby definitely influence the behaviour of others. An animal that's perished next to another one is probably not such an impact. But they are very social, and that group behaviour is very strong. So all those stranded animals moving, vocalising, will be influencing each other.
I heard that overnight the whales moved a little bit kind of naturally. Do you anticipate that could happen again tonight, and could that impact your ability to do the rescues?
Yeah, look, I think we can expect more movement overnight. So since the stranding was first reported, we have seen a gradual sort of spreading out of that group, in that main group in Macquarie Harbour. So I think we can definitely expect some more movement of that overnight. It's all dependent on winds and tides, etc. So we're never sure exactly what we're going to find first thing in the morning. But we'll get up and down there at first light tomorrow, and we'll take it one step at a time.
Did the fact that they'd moved overnight and sort of become one larger spread out group help or hinder today's operation?
I don't think it did either. Really, I don't think it helped. I don't think it hindered. It is what it is. We had to identify animals that we prioritise, which is what we've done, and so we've got on with the job.
And can you just run through again how you prioritise? Because it seems still pretty sort of random.
Well, it's the animals that we think we've got the best chance of refloating and getting into the channel. That are obviously alive and in reasonable shape.
So the stronger ones.
The stronger ones.
Have you noticed any activity from predators today? Sharks, birds getting in the way?
Over to you, Kris.
No, we haven't had any reports of predators getting in the way of operations. I haven't heard of any sightings out there either.
And any injuries among the rescuers?
Nothing
Not that we're aware of.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank you. Right. Off the hook again.
Which one is that?
I don't know who's that one.
Yeah, one. Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Sorry, stopped you.
You did, didn't you?
Just
Oh, hang on.
before we start, where's my eye line?
Me.
You're cool.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Let's get your, is everyone ready to go?
You're rolling.
Yep. Can I please get your first name, last name and your title, please?
Sure. My name's James Scicluna, and I'm a sergeant of police based here at Strahan.
So, in terms of police presence out there today, what are police doing to assist with this situation?
So our main role is to support the Parks and Wildlife and their rescue efforts, and what police are doing is providing a roadblock capability if required, which thankfully today it hasn't been necessary, but we are there on the off chance that it does.
There are a lot of people going down to, members of the public going down to take a look at the whales and in some cases touch them. Is that something that the police are discouraging or in any way policing to stop?
Look, that's probably something that's probably more pertinent to us, Parks and Wildlife. Our main role is to stop vehicle traffic, which we've done. We haven't closed the area off to foot pedestrians, so that probably is a question for Parks and Wildlife.
So as the week goes on, obviously we're getting to the weekend when lots more people have days off. Are you expecting an influx of people with all the best intentions?
So that is something that we are currently planning for. Because this situation is ongoing and there's a lot of complexities, it's something that we'll probably look at further come Friday, if it comes to that.
And have you had to bring extra police in for this?
The only additional police have been 2 members of the Marine Services who have positioned themselves here in Strahan with access to another police boat.
And in terms of taking part in the rescue, they're helping or?
No, so more providing a capability in case that there is a need or if any member of the rescue parties are injured.
So all the police that are taking part, are they all local to Strahan or are they coming from other areas?
So with the exception of the 2 Marine officers, they are all local to Strahan.
Thank you. Thanks for that.